Speaking of Bon Jovi, here's where Bon Jovi lost me.
Did a 7-year-old write this song?
Good evening, Mr. Tyler. Going down.
It sounds like a commercial for Viagra.
I assumed that he was going to come out and rock.
Oh, don't call me Gigolo. Don't call me Casanova.
Without you in my life, I'd slowly wilt and die.
Yeah.
Look at all those puppies.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because you had sex.
The chainsaw.
They also have a lot of parts in their history. I'm like, oh shit, what are you doing?
The chorus is stupid. Please me. No one needs to know.
Even now when it comes on, I'm like,
To me, Def Leppard became Bryan Adams at this point.
hey, if you saw all the shit, the Kiss shit around my house, you know I drank my share of Kool-Aid.
I hate this band and song.
For the record, I bought Generation Swine the day it came out.
Maybe in my old age, I'm going soft.
Mow the lawn, walk the dog? Fuck yes, everyone's gonna love that. Look, I came here to do two things: chew bubblegum and talk hair metal. And it looks like I'm almost out of bubblegum. Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. Today, a really cool and exciting episode about the hair metal hits that we hate. And who better to have on than the master of all metal knowledge, Metal Mike. Welcome to the show. It's been a while, but it's great to have you back.
Thanks, brother. Glad to be here. This is going to be fun. As soon as we got going with this, I'm like, you know what? This is going to ruffle some feathers,
All
You
right.
hate that somebody loves. They're passionate about it. So it'll be interesting.
Exactly. Now, I will say that a lot of times in the past when I do episodes, we'll compare lists just to make sure we don't double up. But Metal Mike and I decided that, hey, we're just going into this. We're winging it. We didn't share lists. So the reactions that you see will be genuine and probably a little fucked up. So, hey, before we get going, something that I like to do, and I know you're a big Poison fan.
Yeah.
So some of the framed stuff that I have in my house, this is, and I hate with the light, but this is a Billboard magazine ad from 1987. It says 2 million people poisoned. And for Look What the Cat Dragged In. So some vintage old Poison stuff. This is one of my favorite framed items. So anyway, there's
awesome
for you. And I'll also throw out, hey, if you're, please like, subscribe, all that stuff. But a special shout out to the people who have joined or subscribed or whatever it's called. The people who are, hey, it costs a little bit of money, which I hate. I don't do this if you're in any kind of bind. So you get some extra benefits for subscribing. But those of you that have subscribed, thank you so much. Okay, without further ado, how did you go? So here's how I went into this. Like some of these hits that we hate, they may have been songs that I liked back in the day and I hate now. And some of them I even hated back in the day. So there's kind of a mixture, but there are songs that potentially I liked at one time or another. How about you?
I did. Some of them were like that knee-jerk reaction of when I first heard them. I didn't really like them, and I got to admit there are some of them, and I'll say which ones. Over the years, they have grown on me a little bit. I've become more tolerant. Maybe in my old age, I'm going soft. You know what I mean? I'm getting more tolerant of some of this shit. But I think because it's metal and it's hair metal, you find a place in your heart for it. But there were a couple, man, when they came out, I was right out of the gate. I thought they were shit. And
Right. So okay. Hair metal hits that we hate. We each chose 10, haven't compared lists. Let's get into it. Metal Mike, what is your number 10?
All right. So this is a great one because I hate this band and song. All right, maybe that's a little harsh. All right, it's a little harsh. Maybe I don't hate the band. I just don't get into their music, okay? But
Right.
this song, I can say that I hate it now. I hate it then. I'll hate it for the rest of my life. And it's the Lumberjack by Jackal, right? So I'm just, look, man, before we even jump in too deep, we don't know why we don't like things or why we do like things. It's like food, right? I like Chinese food. Maybe you don't. We don't know why this stuff is, right? And music is the same way. It's very subjective. You just like it or you don't. So I never got into Jesse Dupree's voice. I always thought his voice was kind of annoying. I'm
Mhm.
not a big blues guy. This is kind of like a bluesy hair model type of a song. And then you got to intermix this annoying ass saw, the chainsaw. You know, it is the corniest shit. And I think as I go on with my list, the corny ass things that went on in metal, those are the things I really don't buy into. So
Yeah.
this is about as goofy as it gets. It was toward the end of hair model. I feel it was like way out of touch with what was going on with music, and just not into it, man. So that's what I got. Lumberjack.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I like the fucking lumberjack song.
That's
And
that's great. Though. I'm glad that you do. This is great. That's what this is all about.
and as soon as you said it, that's immediately my thought was, how many of mine is he gonna love, and how
Mhm.
many of his am I gonna love? And you're gonna be so yeah. I really like that debut Jackal album. To me, that it was a newer take on an old a kind of ACDC ish, and you know, yeah, it's kind of a gimmick because of the chainsaw, but damned if I didn't think it worked in the song. And so, you
Yeah.
know, shit. Even now when it comes on, I'm like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah." So, all right.
You said a
I-
key thing though. ACDC. I've never been huge into. I like some of their songs, but I've never been big into them. So
yeah,
that right there is probably one of the key reasons why I don't like Jackals.
right, right.
Look who's here! It's Charlie! With all our babies! Yeah, 'cause you have babies from your boobies. Now you're here for the weekend, and we all missed you so much because you're very nice, you're very smart, and you're very popular on YouTube, aren't you? Yeah, you're such a big girl.
All right, my number 10. And talk about like stuff that was just cheesy. And this came from somebody that came from rock and came from one of the biggest bands in the world. And I always thought this guy was a rocker, true and true. And then in 1985, David Lee Roth releases Just a Gigolo. And I'm like, you know, okay, in 1985, I was 13. So I think, you know, when it came out, I was probably just a jiggle, you know, don't let me sing, by the way. But the farther removed, or the older I got, the more I was like, what the fuck were you doing? And I feel like David Lee Roth's entire solo career, I asked that question a lot. Like, what the fuck are you doing, Dave? So I know that, I mean, it was just an EP, uh, Crazy from the Heat. It went platinum, and Gigolo and California Girls were big hits. But California Girls also, like, to me, those two songs were like telling your rock. I mean, you know, because you know, back in the day, if you were a rocker, you were like, you were kind of, man, I spit on that pop shit, and you weren't supposed to like that stuff. So I feel like a lot of the, you know, diehard Van Halen fans, it would have been pretty disappointed in this stuff. And looking back on it, I'm like, that was just one in a number of missteps in the solo career of David Lee Roth.
I don't hate Just the Gigolo, but I don't love it. It's nothing that I would sit around and listen to by any means. But one thing I'm going to say in defense of Dave, if you go back and you listen to the early Van Halen albums, he does this kind of shit, man. Ice Cream Man, Big Bad Bill is Sweet William now. You know what I mean? Like he's done these kind of things before. So I think when he does those kind of tracks, like you're talking about, those non-metal ones, I kind of give him the pass because it's just something that he's always done. You know what I mean? So
I just remember, I remember when Jump came out, and if I and tell me if I'm wrong, but Dave was like, we shouldn't be having keyboards. You know, Eddie Van Halen's the greatest guitar player in the world. He's a rock guy. So I know Dave had that Vegas, you know, persona. So I mean, Just a Gigolo isn't far from that, but just knowing that he was like, hey, we got to stay with the rock because that's what we do. You know, I assumed that he was going to come out and rock, which he
right,
did on the follow up,
he did.
on the first the major solo debut. But to announce his presence, he went complete Vegas, which
Yeah.
I see your point, but yeah.
He's an anomaly. We'll never
Oh,
figure it. We could spend the whole podcast trying to figure him out. And we still would figure him out.
hell, man, that's truer words haven't been said. Okay.
Uh,
How about your number 9?
All right, number 9. I might piss you off, piss somebody off here, but okay, it's a song by Slaughter. Okay, um, let's first say with a positive. I thought the debut of Slaughter album was amazing. I thought all the singles were great. Just was huge into that album, and then came the Wildlife. And the song that I'm going to use for an example, a song that I don't really like is The Wildlife. I thought that weak start off single for this album. I don't like the production of it. I think some of the melodies are goofy, like, go real far. Then they all got to answer back, go real far. It's kind of like answering back. But the thing that drives me nuts, and this is just maybe me as somebody who does write music and has a little bit of music in me that I like to put out there, the chorus drives me nuts. And I feel like there's awkward melodies in this chorus, like feel like an animal. Like it's just, I don't know. It's like choppy and weird. It just doesn't flow. So I don't like that song for that reason. And like I said, I think it was a disappointing first single based on all those great singles that we had off the debut. And I'm just not huge into the Wildlife. Now, like we said, this one, if it comes on, I don't turn it. You know what I mean? I don't hate it, but I think it's kind of weak compared to some of the other stuff they've done.
Yeah.
So what do you think said about the Wildlife? I got to hear it. I know you like it. I bet you like it.
So I like the song The Wildlife. The album The Wildlife was a real disappointment, but I felt like that title track was the closest thing to something that could have fit on Stick It To Ya. And I'm with you. I love Stick It To Ya. I mean, shit. Even outside of Up All Night, Desperately, Mad About You, Burning Bridges. Holy shit. I mean, just those. Fuck. I mean, so that's a great album. And man, people were pumped for The Wildlife, and it debuted at like number 8 on Billboard. But so I do like The Wildlife, but man, after The Wildlife, the rest of it just sounded like they were going, okay, we're going to try this kind of thing and this kind of thing. And it was just a big hodgepodge. So I like The Wildlife, but yeah, it was a disappointing album, but all right. Yeah, I see why. Looking back, I mean, some of that shit's kind of cheesy, but
yeah, right. Like I feel like it was kind of a corny song and just
some of the stuff I love is corny though, but
true.
I
Dude,
like
me too.
okay.
Kiss fan. I'm a Kiss fan. It ain't
Well,
getting cornier than some of their shit. Let's Put the X in Sex. I should have put that on here, but I didn't. Maybe
you don't like Let's Put the X in Sex? No, I'm kidding.
No, I mean it's you got to be in the mood for it, I guess.
Yeah, you got to be in the mood for it. Okay, I get what you're saying. All right. Well, that's the perfect segue because Kiss is my number 9, and everyone knows I'm a huge Kiss fan, just like you are. You got the Kiss shirt. I'm wearing a little lover boy today because I decided to try something a little different. But okay, I'm huge into Kiss. I think shoot, a couple of my favorite albums of all time. Everyone knows I love Revenge. Love Gun might be my second favorite album. But in the late 70s, early 80s, they lost me for a little bit. And I think I think you really like this song. In 1980, they released Unmasked, which there is some decent stuff on. But how in the fuck Shandy became a hit is beyond me. To me it sounds like it's part disco and there's all these different it drives me up a wall. Like when Gene Simmons talks about playing I Was Made for Loving You and how he just hates that. Whenever I hear Shandy, I just cringe. I think I Was Made for Loving You is a dramatically better piece of work than Shandy. So I don't know if Shandy was a huge hit in America, but I know across the world it was huge. Like in Australia, they fucking worship that song. So anyway, I don't get it, and maybe you do, and you can tell me why I'm wrong.
I get where you're coming from. Because like if you were just gonna, like I said, you listen to Creatures of the Night or something, and then you put this on, you can say, "What the hell's going on here? This is weird," you know. But I think some Kiss fans, like myself, are like really into that 79, 80 era, like the Dynasty costumes. Dynasty's birthdays today. Happy birthday, Dynasty. I dig that whole era, man. I like that Super Kiss era, and I think I'm just blind. I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid for like Dynasty and Unmasked. You know what I mean? And I get where you're coming from, but I think at the end of the day, it's actually a well-written song that's pretty catchy. Should it be a Kiss song? Okay, maybe that's questionable. But
Right.
watch how they do it in Sydney. I think I love how the live version of it. So I really do like the song. And in later years, my kids grew to like that song because to them, there's no real eras of Kiss. They consumed it all at one time. You know what I mean? So every time my kids always say, "Oh, I love Shandy," or "I love Easy as It Seems" off of Unmasked, that just kind of gets me jazzed up. So that's probably a reason why I like it even more today because my kids are into it. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm like a blind drinking the Kool-Aid when it comes to the 79, 80 era. So
Hey, if you saw all the shit, the Kiss shit around my house, you know I drank my share of Kool-Aid. But yeah, that was a drink that I could just never quite mix.
yeah.
And you know, you made a good point. Like I can see how people would like it. You know, I could see why a different band, it just to me it's just not a Kiss song. And but you know, I mean, when Beth first came out, Beth wasn't a Kiss song. I Was Made for Loving You certainly wasn't a Kiss song. I like Beth. So, but yeah, it I can see why people like it. It's just not for me. All right. So there was one that I had that you actually liked. Now we're on to number 8. What do you got?
All right, mine is a Kiss song as well. All right, and this one came out early in my Kiss game, man. I got Asylum, and I that was the first Kiss album I ever bought, and I was super stoked for the follow up because I was going to be a first day buyer this time. That one I got Asylum in '86, so it had already been out for a year. This I'd be a first day buyer, and I remember the video came out for Crazy Nights, man, and I was kind of like, I don't really dig this tune, man. I don't to this day, I tolerate it, but I don't think it's a great song. I think the verses are very goofy. You know, it almost sounds like a children's nursery rhyme. You know, rap that they all say, and then you've got the pre-chorus is okay, but you've got the weakest lazy ass chorus ever. Crazy, 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 crazy nights. I hate choruses like that don't have like other lines that rhyme and like like a real developed chorus. It's
Yeah.
just the title over and over again. Kids do it like Love Gun. I get it, they do it, but I'm not a big fan of when they do it. But what I will say that I do like about the song is I think the guitar solo is great. I think Bruce Kulick was totally on fire by the time there was Crazy Nights. But I'll tolerate it. But like my knee jerk reaction when it came out, I didn't really like it, and I'm not overly enthused about it today. And I don't go back to that song very often.
Um, I loved the album Crazy Nights when it came out. That was when I was just starting to get to where I could buy my own music. You know, I was like 15 or 16. So I I I loved so I still like the song Crazy Nights. I get what you're saying about the chorus. Do you know I'm assuming you know the band Airborne, like the newer
Yeah,
band. They're kind of an AC/DC kind of clone. Well, they are they have choruses where it's like 4 words and they just keep repeating them. And I'm
yeah.
like, dude, give me something else in the
Mhm.
chorus. So I can see that about that chorus. I think the melody of it and I mean it's this gang vocal that I kind of like. So I do like that. Now looking back on the Crazy Nights album, um I'm surprised that like I've started to like Asylum more than Crazy Nights. I don't know if that makes me weird, but
No,
so
I do.
in the like so Crazy Nights hasn't aged that well because it's so keyboard driven.
Yep.
And I'm not against some keyboards, but it just it lacks the so I like, like you said, the solo, but a lot of times when I hear the guitar riffs, I feel like I'm hearing a keyboard versus yeah, I don't know if that makes sense. I'm not a musician, but it just sounds really manufactured. So
Yep.
I do like the song, but it hasn't aged well, and it's probably, I don't bring out that album very much at all.
No, no.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
All right, we're on my number 8. So, man, this album, if there's an album that defines the 80s, or at least a group of them, this is up in the top 3 or 4. I probably sold what, probably at 15 million copies right now. I'm talking about Def Leppard's Hysteria. And I won't lie, I worshiped that album when it came out. I played the shit out of it. It hasn't aged well, but there are still songs that I like on it. But even back in the day, the song Rocket
Mm.
was a tough sell for me. It's so, I mean, it's so, and nothing against drums, but it's so long, and there's these huge drum breakdowns that take forever. And so I liked it back in the day, but now whenever it comes on, I'm just like, here we go. Uh, it's like whenever a drum solo happens at a concert, like that's when it's, to me, it's time to go to the bathroom. I feel
You're right.
like Rocket is kind of a big drum solo, and with some melody and shit in the middle, and it just kind of disappointed me. So yeah, that's my number 8.
I mean, I'm not a huge Def Leppard guy, so you could probably throw any Def Leppard, and I'd probably say, yeah, that song does suck. But one song that came to mind for me that I didn't put on my list, but I almost made it. But there's already a couple other Def Leppard ones coming, so spoiler. Anyways, I thought "Women" was kind of weird, man. Like I didn't think that was a great first single, and I think the chorus is dumb as hell. Women,
Yeah.
women, men, men. I mean, it's like this is pretty asinine, So like I thought that was a horrible first single. Thank God they rebounded with the rest of those tracks and had
Yeah.
a huge ass album. But I think a
Yep.
lot of people thought when they heard "Women," like this puppy's gonna tank. You've been working all these years, and this is the best you got.
Yep. And
But yeah, I'm with you on Rocket. There's not a lot there. No.
no, and I'm with you on Women. Like, I could have picked, I mean, there's numerous songs that, I mean, that had 7 singles. I mean, shit, the thing, half the album was a hit.
Yep.
But now when I go back to Def Leppard, I go to Pyromania, I go to High and Dry, and I
Mhm.
usually kind of pass over Hysteria, and Adrenalize doesn't really get a whiff.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's my number 8. What's your number 7?
All right, number 7. So let's just say this is not a big hit. It was a single. Okay. And what prompted me to put this song on was you messaged me the other day and you said, "What do you think of the new Tattoo album by Motley Crue?" And I said, I like a lot of it, but I think a lot of it's forced. They were really trying hard to get the old Dr. Feelgood sound after, Generation Swine. And I'm telling you, I I'm a sucker for like Vince Neil and Motley Crue. I like Generation Swine. I like Carved in Stone, like all kinds of stupid shit that everybody hates, man. But the song "Hell on High Heels," I hate. It. I hate it. And once again, I thought this was just a horrible first single because there's some really cool songs on this album, but this song is just so cheesy. Every innuendo, like lyrically, that you could use, like the cheesiest stuff. It said, "No rain in sight. Better put on your rubbers, boy." Like talking about like your rubber boots, but like the condom. I mean, this is like so dumb. And then they reuse the line "HIV HIV VIP" from Generation Swine Beauty. They reuse that. I hate when people reuse lyrics. Like, no recycling. I know nobody bought Generation Swine, but don't recycle any of the lyrics that you have on a previous album. And I'm a big Vince guy, but like this song, it makes me understand why like those who don't like Vince and think his voice is annoying. Like his voice is annoying on this song. It's real whiny and irritating, and it's just cheese, man. It's high level cheese, forced cheese, Swiss cheese, whatever you want to call it. But it's just I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me. I can't stand that song, and I like most Motley Crue, but I don't like the song.
For the record, I bought Generation Swine the day it came out. All right.
I do.
Yeah. And it's a shit show. Um, So I recently did a review, maybe I'll put the picture up of the new Motley Crue song. And I took a shit on it. I didn't like it. I know you and Ryan did a review as well. I'll put something in about that one. So go check out those reviews. But when doing that review, I had talked about how I wish they would try, just, hey, try to bring back some of the old school. Try maybe just to give the fans what they want, something old school, something similar to what you were doing in 81 to 85 or whatever. So so then I realized, I'm like, you know what? They did kind of do that with New Tattoo. And I'm like, I haven't listened to that forever. So I got to go check that out. So I didn't mind Hell on High Heels. And I'll just, because yes, it is forced, and it reminds me that there was a time where Motley Crue did say, all right, everybody's clamoring for us to do something similar to the 80s. Let's give it a whirl. Because that's what that reminds me of. Hey, Motley Crue trying to do 80s. I mean, the song title Hell on High Heels, nothing screams 80s more than that. And the guitar riff was kind of something that you would have heard back then. So 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 I get it. I get what Motley Crue was doing, and I didn't mind it, but it makes me wonder if and maybe I'm getting off topic, if them even trying to do shit like they did back in the day works, because obviously New Tattoo wasn't a big hit. But I feel like nowadays, the farther we are removed from the hair metal heyday, the more we are wanting somebody to give us something similar to that. So I think nowadays it would be reacted to better. Hey, do you hear that noise? Charlie is here, and her 8 puppies. Here, I'll just see if I can do this. Her 8 puppies.
Oh, you got puppies?
Yes, because she got knocked up.
No kidding.
Look at all those puppies.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, because you had 6. You're naughty. So, I started to hear him squeak. I didn't know. Maybe you guys can't hear it, but
Oh, I hear it. Yeah, I can hear it.
yeah, yeah. So, okay, yeah, she had her puppies, and she's staying with me for a couple days, and then she's going back out to the farm where the family that I got her from. She's going to stay there until the puppies are ready to go back to their family, or are ready to go to their new families, and then she comes back and lives with me. So,
Cool.
yes, okay, that's the deal. So anyway, I don't mind Hell on High Heels. I certainly don't love it, and it makes me weep for the future of Motley Crue, that I don't think we're ever going to get anything that we all want.
No, you made a great point, because as much as I don't really like that song, I would have liked to seen them do something like that today. Because I think, like, you kind of make that analogy, like, yeah, maybe trying to do it right in 2000. Motley Crue should have just went away for a while. Probably for the end of the 90s to the, or mid 2000s, you should have went away,
Yep.
because there's really nothing they were going to add to the climate of music at that point. But today, if I was listening to some of those songs on New Tattoo, and I was like, I would prefer like some of those tracks versus the Dogs of War tracks. So I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we did not compare lists. My number 7 is also Motley Crue, but it comes from Theater of Pain. And I didn't differentiate between covers. If it was a hit by a hair metal band and I didn't like it, it went on the list. And I may have liked Smoking in the Boys Room when I was a kid. It was kind of edgy, and I don't need to follow rules and schools for fools and all that shit. But as time goes on, and even I think probably shortly after it came out, I was like, Smoking in the Boys Room, Teacher, Teacher, I mean, so the cheese factor was high. It was a hit. I know that Theater of Pain is not one of my favorite Motley Crue albums. And so it seems like they were at a point where they were maybe struggling to come up with material, hence a cover song being a single. But it does nothing for me, and there's no way I can listen to it these days.
You make a great point. I think that was like a gateway song and video for a lot of us smoking in the boys' room. First time you saw Motley Crue with the Theater of Pain glam look and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's another one I do not want to listen to today. So that's a good call right there.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes I feel like I shit on Motley Crue a lot, because I feel like they're horrible live now, and I hate Dogs of War. But I need people to understand I love Motley Crue. I mean, I grew up just worshiping that band, and they were always two steps ahead of everybody else. They went glam on Theater of Pain before everybody else. They toughened up their image on Girls, Girls, Girls before Appetite for Destruction came out. You know, a lot of people give Appetite the credit for going kind of sleazy and black and all that. Motley did it first.
Yep.
So they were all, and I mean, so many songs I love, but yeah, but they also have a lot of parts in their history. I'm like, oh shit, what are you doing? So anyway, love Motley Crue, have some disappointing moments, doesn't change the fact that I'm a huge fan.
You know, one thing, and I've been wanting, maybe you and I should do this video at some point, but I would like to do a video sometime that shows the correlation in the careers of Motley Crue and Kiss. Because if you look at it, Kiss was an innovator and ahead of the game and the biggest thing in the 70s. And then in the 80s, they became followers. Motley Crue, same exact thing happened. Ahead of the game with everything in the 80s. And in the 90s, then they kind of became followers, with Generation Swine,
Yep.
even with bob in their hair or what all the different looks. They just jumped on whatever bandwagons were going on at that point. So there's a lot of correlations between
Yes.
and Kiss. Yeah.
And if you don't have me on for that episode, I'm going to really be pissed at you. Okay.
All right, you're there. You're in.
All right. Okay. That was my number 7. All right, we're on to your number 6. What do you got?
All right, man. Def Leppard time. Let's go. Make love like a man.
Oh, geez.
Like, is this a commercial? It sounds like a commercial for Viagra or something like that. It sounds like a commercial, right? It's bad. And there's a lot of goofy lyrics, don't call me gigolo, don't call me Casanova. And I don't know about you, but to me, Def Leppard became Bryan Adams at this point. It sounds like Bryan Adams type of generic rock. And it's just not, it has no balls. It's totally out of touch with everything that was going on. You look at 92, okay, but even besides the grunge thing, Kiss Revenge, Black Sabbath Dehumanizer, Vulgar Display of Power. You got these numbskulls doing this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So they were in a bubble because it would take so damn long to make an album. The whole scene changed and they didn't know it. You know what I mean? And they just put out some cheeseball album that probably would have worked well in 1990, but like I said, they still sold some records, but this is some goofy shit, man.
I mean, well, and that was one of my, when we did the hair metal flops, that was one of my flops because it sold 3 million, but they had 7 singles. So there's no way that album made any money because to put out 7 singles, all the promotion, I mean, shit, Hysteria had to sell like 4 million copies for it to make any money. So anyway,
saw that on a documentary. I just saw that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I mean, it needed to go huge. And it wasn't until Pour Some Sugar on Me came out that they were like, okay, we'll be fine because 3 million wasn't going to do it. Anyway, yeah. What were they? I get it. Okay. You put up in 87, one of the 3 biggest albums of the 80s. You're like, you can do no wrong. And basically they kind of copied the formula. They didn't grow with the times. And I kind of understand that. But when it came out in 92, and even some of my favorite albums that flopped, like Warrant's Dog Eat Dog, I mean, they grew. That's a phenomenal album. It didn't abandon the past, but Def Leppard stayed 13-year-old boys. And I mean, shit, I could have had so many more Def Leppard songs on, and I really like Def Leppard, at least some of the older shit. But Make Love Like a Man, I'm actually shocked I didn't put that for some. I didn't really, because I just kind of looked at Hysteria and some of that stuff, but Let's Get Rocked could have been on this thing. All right, that's a shit show. And Make Love Like a Man. I forgot about the Casanova line and the gigolo shit. Ah, it's and
Uh,
I was on an episode with Ryan and he talked about some awards show where like Nirvana was on and all these newer bands, and then here's Def Leppard doing Let's Get Rocked, and they're
yeah,
wearing all these, and they just and I'm not a grunge guy, so it's not like I wanted them to go grunge,
no,
but like I said, 13-year-old kids, they stayed, and so
yep.
yeah, that's it's embarrassing. All right. Now I feel like I might be getting into something that I don't know people would be pissed about, but I'm a huge Rat fan. All right. And I Out of the Cellar. Oh, I think that's an all killer, no filler. Invasion of Your Privacy is close to that. Also went double platinum. They start having some filler after that. But the first single, usually the first single off an album is something that people are going to gravitate to. And when Reach for the Sky came out and Way Cool Jr. was the first single, and instead of getting some kick-ass Warren DeMartini guitar riff, I don't you get this like click, 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 and then you get some horns and shit. And I'm
Orange.
just like, man, I had hair when I listened to that song, and then I listened to it, and now it all came out. So it was I there does come, like the chorus isn't bad, but I just horns and metal doesn't work for me, and I feel like there could have been something much better than Way Cool Jr.
Yeah, I don't like the horns thing. You're right. Waco Jr. is kind of weak. And I think on Detonator, Loving You is a Dirty Job is kind of gets into that
Yep.
goofy, stuff that we've been talking about. So I didn't put it on, but it crossed my path. I almost made it. So
Is I Want a Woman on
Reach for the Sky. Yeah.
is on
That's
Reach for
that's
the Sky?
yeah, that's
Like
a good song.
to me, that should have been the first single.
Yeah.
That's even though the title makes it sound like it's gonna be kind of cheesy, it's catchy as shit.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I love that song. I feel and Reach for the Sky went platinum, but I think mainly based on their reputation of the earlier albums. Because
Mhm.
then in 90 you get Detonator, and I really like Detonator. It's kind of poppy, but in a good way. And that album only went gold. The band breaks up after that.
Yeah.
So maybe Way Cool Jr. was the moment where Rat's career was fucked. So pardon.
Starting to go down a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What's your number 5?
All right, man. This not everybody's gonna agree with this, but I gotta be true to myself and put it out there. Tease Me, Please Me by the Scorps off of Crazy World. It's weird. You get these first singles, these weak first singles. And to me, this is the Scorpions lost themselves, right? I know it was a big album, but
Yep.
you can't tell me that this sounds like Scorpions. This sounds like every other LA 80s band, right? They lost their ball. I think they lost their balls in a lot of it. You know what I mean? They were heavy, they were classy. At least like when they did these sex tunes, it was classy. Like Rhythm of Love, I think has some class. This
Yeah.
has no class. It's just lowbrow, cheeseball, goofy lyrics. The chorus is stupid. Tease me, please me. No one needs to know. It's come on, come on. And you know what else pissed me off is Dangerous Toys did Tease and Pleasin'. So it's a carbon copy of that name. You know what I mean? So yeah, they lost their sound, they lost their balls. I get it that it was big, but the only reason that album was big was because of Wind of Change. Really, those other singles, they had a lot of singles too off this album, but they weren't. None of them were big hits.
What
Right,
year did that album come out?
90.
90. Yeah.
But kind of telling. I think 90 is the year of like the pinnacle of cheese. It really is.
Yep.
So
And so I don't know, like I've told you in the past, like I was a little too cool for the Scorpions because I thought they were like a 70s band. I liked the hits, but I don't remember getting into that album. And Wind of Change, though it's a good ballad, man, it got played so much. that so I don't think like that's one of those albums that I don't think I bought back in the day. I probably listened to it years later. But yeah, you're right. That's the earlier songs that were, you know, Still Loving You, Rhythm of Love, like man, I love that shit. But tease it, was it Tease Me, Please Me? Tease Me, Please Me? Just saying that title is kind of embarrassing. So
Right. It's
yeah.
just corny.
I'm with you, and I'm not afraid to say I mean if I love a song that you're, but yeah, that's not okay. My number five comes from one of my, and I think one of our favorite bands of this genre and their biggest album, Poison, 1988. Open Up and Say Ah. I mean, there's some filler. I Good Love and that harmonica shit I was not into, but most of the singles were great, except for that stupid cover of Your Mama Don't Dance. I didn't even like this back in the day. Most of these songs, shit, probably even Make Love Like a Man. Like I might have, you know, I was still a teenager. I probably thought it was kind of cheesy, but I never liked Your Mama Don't Dance when it came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is this a single? And for some, you know, Poison could have, I mean, they could have done anything. You know, they could have bunched up a bag of chips and recorded the noise, and people would have been like, yeah, Poison, because that album went 5 times platinum. But to me, uh, shit, Love on the Rocks should have been a single. I love that song. I and to me, you always choose an original if possible
Yep.
over a cover. So Your Mama Don't Dance, I think it went to number 10 on Billboard. Never got into it, still hate it.
I never was big into it either. You know what I mean? It's just I think it's just a song I tolerated. You know, it was just like it was like the last single from the album run, and it was like whatever. You know what I mean? So, but never a song that I would go back and listen to today. No way.
No. Okay, your number four.
All right, man. It's a band I'm not huge into, but I like some of their stuff. But this song, no good, man. Loving an Elevator. I can't. All those whoa yes, like they're so repetitive, and it's, once again we're getting back to like a commercial. This could be like a commercial for something. I don't know, for taking a friggin' elevator ride. I have no idea, but it is the corniest shit ever. And then they got all those puns about the elevator, you know,
Yeah.
going down, and then lingerie second floor. It's like
Yeah.
it's real goofy shit. And they're kind of older at this point, and they're doing this goofy shit. Talk about the horns. I don't like the horns. Those synth horns. They're not even real friggin' horns. They're synth horns, and they're all over this. The one thing I will say about this song is when you get to the guitar solo and they're jamming at the end, that actually is pretty cool. But the
Right.
whole rest of the song is trash. And I just don't even like Steven Tyler. I'm just gonna say I don't really like him. So I just
I
pile that. Yeah.
I
Uh,
I really liked the Permanent Vacation album, and I did like Pump. I and I loved Love in an Elevator when it came out. Again, a song that nowadays I'm like, oh, you know, that happens a lot. I loved it when it came out. They really lost me on Get a Grip with Crying and
yeah.
Amazing, and the, you know, Living on the Edge was So I mean that album was huge. So yeah, and I mean Love in an Elevator, I mean, I was gonna say they kind of always had those tongue-in-cheek lyrics. I mean, you know, all the way back to Walk This Way. But it felt like Love in an Elevator was like, all right, this is what's happening. So we're gonna do this. You know, and Permanent Vacation is kind of the same thing. I mean, it was basic hair metal. It was decent hair metal. But it felt like Aerosmith doing hair metal.
Yeah.
So I still like Janie's Got a Gun. I thought that was, you know, a really
Yeah. That's a little
interesting and
deeper. Yeah. Yeah.
different song, but Loving It, yeah. Good evening, Mr. Tyler. Going down. Hoo 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 hoo. All right. Yeah. All right. My number four comes from, man, one of my favorite bands. and a song that I probably liked. I probably over talked about this band. Um, it's Warrant's Cherry Pie,
Yeah.
and yeah, and it's it's ironic that the song that you just did was "Love in an Elevator," because why did Cherry Pie get written? Warrant submits the album. The record label president says, "Great, but I don't hear the single. You got to give me something like Love in an Elevator." Janie Lane goes and writes Cherry Pie. So I'm not going to go into all the shit about Cherry. That song is, it was fun when it came out, you
Mhm.
know, but it's aged like shit. And yes, it some people, and I've even, implied that song contributed to the downfall of Janie Lane. But I wish that hadn't been a single. Maybe even if it had been on the album,
Mhm.
but the album had been called Uncle Tom's Cabin like originally planned, and Uncle Tom's Cabin was the first single. Maybe that changes things, but I was 18, 19 when that came out. Like, yeah, shit, we're all like, cheese my cherry pie. But just like make love like a man and some of this other shit, Love in an Elevator, it gets cringy the farther you get away from it.
This was on my list, and then the lumberjack bumped it down to an honorable. But one thing I'm going to give this song. Here's the positive. Out of a lot of these songs, you said it has no balls. I feel like the riff has some balls. Like the Cherry Pie riff, it's kind of heavy. You know what I mean? So like that part
Yeah.
is cool. But man, if they say swinging one more time, you know what I mean? Like swinging, seriously, it was like, come on, man, this is getting out of control with the swinging. And then
Right.
the cool drink of water. Really? That doesn't sound very sexy to me, man. You're a cool drink of water, lady.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
But goofy shit going on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Janie Lane knew how to construct a song, and the president said, "Give me this," and he's like, "Fine, I'll give you this." And I mean, it's a tongue-in-cheek, fun, tune, and so and people still love to hear it live, but it's kind of worn out its welcome.
Yep. For sure.
Uh, All right, what's your number three?
All right. This is gonna catch some hate from people. I know it for sure, but I don't care. I'm gonna stand by it. And right now, man, it's a lot of Bon Jovi going around, right? Bon Jovi's just had the documentary out, and hey, go over to my channel. We did a Bon Jovi episode. Check that out. But I was big into Bon Jovi around Slippery When Wet. I thought that was a good sound. It was a heavier pop metal, glam metal, hair metal, whatever you want to call it. And I was ready, man. I was excited for New Jersey, but I gotta put the first single, man. Bad Medicine is not good. I think it's kind of corny, and I think it fits right in with like Cherry Pie, Love in the Elevator, all these songs. There's a lot of the medical puns and the fevers and the diseases and all that stuff, and it's just kind of corny. In reality, I don't think it has a lot of balls, and I feel like it. And I hate to keep saying that, but I do feel like these corny songs, a band tends to lose its balls, and it doesn't. It's like a wannabe of "You Give Love a Bad Name" or something. Like they're shooting for that, but
Sure.
we can't get there now because we're like rich and we can't be hard. Like not that that album was hard, but it had a little bit of an edge. They lost their edge, and this whole album I'm not a big fan of. Maybe a couple songs I like, "Lay Your Hands on Me" and "I'll Be There for You," but the rest of it is they're going down that Springsteen, Cowboys, and they're all over the board with this album. And I just think this song's corny, and I stand by it. So
Yeah. So it's not a song that's aged particularly well. I love the New Jersey album. That and Slippery are to me like the epitome of Bon Jovi. Um and I loved the cowboy shit. Wild as the Wind, Stick to Your Guns, and Blood on Blood. I feel like is would be in my top 5 Bon Jovi songs of all time. I almost put I'll Be There for You because I feel like that was I'll be these 5 words
yeah,
so
yeah,
anyway, but I get, and that I think went to number one. I get why and I'm a ballad guy. Like I really do love ballads. So, but when Bad Medicine came out, I loved it. I mean, now it's yeah, when you look back at it, when you get farther away from it, it's kind of like the cherry pie love in an elevator thing.
Totally.
So nowadays it's probably a song I skip, but when that thing came out, I was trying to sing all those lyrics as fast as he was.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there was a period where Bon Jovi was probably my favorite band. Um, right when New Jersey got released because I loved Slippery and I love New Jersey, and we might get to some Bon Jovi here in a little bit. So
All
yeah,
right, I'm looking forward.
I hear you. I love the album, but that song is like many didn't age well.
Yep.
All right, okay. Speaking of Bon Jovi, here's where Bon Jovi lost me. Is is in 1992 they put out Keep the Faith, which what fucking balloons. I never
Yay!
know what I did to get the balloons. But here's the I know this and I'll show you another one here in a second. I know this. So those are cool, but fucking balloons. Anyway, um the title track off Keep the Faith I just thought was a disaster. Mother, tell you, uh, and it there was no rocking to it at all. There are a couple songs I like on that album. I Believe I thought would have should have been the first single. Really cool opening guitar riff from Richie Sambora. But I hated Keep the Faith when it came out. It's only aged like shit, and I'm just talking about the song, not the album. And that's kind of where, I went from worshiping Slippery and New Jersey to being like, okay, and I bought the next few Bon Jovi albums, but that song is kind of where, okay, they're just another rock band that I used to like and I kind of support. And there'd be the occasional song that I liked after it, but it just that's the point where it started, where they lost me.
I don't love the song "Keep the Faith," but I don't hate it. I'll be honest. Like since I didn't like New Jersey that much, I kind of was welcome to like something that was a little bit different. So that's why I actually like "Keep the Faith" as an album, and I think these days is great. I really like a lot of the songs on that album. So I kind of differ a little bit just because I didn't like New Jersey that much. I kind of was interested in them changing it up a little bit. So
There's a well there's the Classic Rock, the magazine, and then there's the website, whatever social media accounts, Ultimate Classic Rock.
yep,
And they released a thing that ranked the Bon Jovi albums, and I'm just shocked. They put These Days at number one. And
yeah,
so I need to revisit that album because
yeah.
honestly, I remember the song These Days, but I remember very little of it. But I know a lot of people talk. I always Slippery New Jersey, but I need to revisit that because I want to see what I'm missing. And so, all right.
Yeah.
With that, let's go on to your number two.
All right. Well, you mentioned David Lee Roth earlier, and now it's time for me to mention David Lee Roth, but I'm going with A Little Ain't Enough because I think this is just complete out of touch Dave here. You know what I mean? I just think he's trying to be that ladies' man still, and here he is. Like if you look at the video, his hair is starting to thin out a little bit. I think his voice sounds kind of worn just a little bit. Like it's not up to par. And I just think this is just goofy. It's just goofy stuff, man. It's just I think it's just a little bit cheese, and I think he's past his prime at this point. It's not working. Um, so I mean, I'm not gonna harp on it. I feel like that's a cheesy song. I never cared for that album. I just feel like it was going okay, with the skyscraper, Eat 'em and Smile, those were okay. And then we had a real drop off. Never could understand Little Ain't Enough, the song, the album, nothing.
No, and you're right. Like Skyscraper, like I know some people shit on it, but I really liked Just Like Paradise. To me, it was utterly catchy. It was kind of the times,
Yep.
but so and that album went platinum. Um, but then little ain't enough. I was gone by then, and
Yeah.
that
I think most,
song
yeah.
did nothing. And Dave's solo career was kind of because he's never rebounded. In the Dave versus Sammy, I've always kind of like, I like Dave, I like Sammy and Van, but Dave's solo career, I think is really disappointing.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
So, Sammy had a pretty great solo career. So, all right, good call. My number two, and again, I'm a ballad guy, and I'm a Motley Crue guy, but the song "Without You" off Dr. Feelgood is just the most wimpy horseshit. One of the most wimpy horseshit, because I still got one more song coming. Ballads that I thought it was cheesy when it came out. And I don't know why. I mean, a lot of 80s ballads were cheesy that I seem to love, but I don't know if it's that I hate that guitar. You probably know it, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's
Steel guitar. Yeah.
some kind of, yeah, steel or slide guitar. And I've always felt the weak spot in Motley Crue was Vince's vocals. They're original, but and like I said, I love Motley Crue, but there's times where I'm like, ooh, that's maybe not a good song for Vince to sing. So it was a huge hit. I never got into it.
You know, I don't mind it. I'll be honest with you. And but you're not the first person that I've heard that can't stand it. A lot of people don't like it. I've never really understood what the problem was with it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's just like a ballad. Like, I don't know. I feel like they tried to be a little bit more interesting on it. That's what, I don't hate it, but I don't sit around like listen to it daily. But yeah, I don't get the hate. But you're not the only one that doesn't like it. So
When it gets to the chorus, it's not bad. Uh, it kind of grabs me there, but without you in my life, I'd slowly wilt and die.
yeah,
I that line, and maybe just by then I was like, it was kind of cliche. But again, a lot of those bands were doing cliche shit. So yeah, just never grabbed me. But I see why people like it, and it's got a good chorus.
yeah. You know what song I actually like on that Dr. Feelgood that everybody hates is "Time for Change." I think Vince sounds great on that song, and I think it's a good song. I don't know, it just sounds like like a classic Motley Crue ballad. But everybody I ever talked to hates it, so I don't know.
I like that song. I like that song more than Without You. And I
Yeah,
told somebody, I'm like, if you had to release a ballad, I would have rather had Time for Change than Without You.
yeah,
That's
I
a
don't
good
know.
song.
Yeah,
Shit.
cool.
All right. What's your shit? We're almost done. What's
Yeah,
your man? This is a lot different than Brian from the Hairband Basement. We fucking
you guys
two
go like
hours.
2 hours.
Son of a bitch. Just kidding, Brian. All right. Okay, what's your number one?
All right, I feel like this is like too easy because we kind of alluded to this song a little while ago, but I have to do it because I hate it with a passion. Always have, always will. Let's get rock.
Oh,
If that's not the laziest ass chorus that there's ever been, right? But here it is. Let's set the stage, right? Like we said, huge album. This is the first single, and the first single is a representation of what is to come, right? This is my chance to make a great impression. This is what we got. Mow the lawn, walk the dog. It's like, did a 7-year-old write this song? Like,
yeah.
what is going on? Like, did these guys, I don't know, become like juveniles or something? Like, oh, I mean, I get it. It's not highbrow music, but this is as lowbrow as it gets, man. Between Let's Get Rock and Make Love Like a Man. And I know I'm not a huge Leopard fan, but I think most people are with me that this just is garbage. They sound like jingles. These songs sound like commercials and shit, like cheesy shit, no balls. We're trying to sound like Brian Adams now. It's just bad. And the video, forget about it. It's bad.
I think this, and I think a lot of bands suffer from this. I think Motley Crue suffers from this now, Guns N' Roses, and certainly Def Leppard back then. You get to a point where you are so fucking big that there is no one in your inner circle is going to say, guys, this is not a good idea. They
Right.
everybody is just saying yes. Oh, you mow the lawn, walk the dog. Fuck yes, everyone's gonna love that. You know,
Poetry. We love
let's
it.
get rocked. Shit, go for it. You know, everybody's afraid to say no, and probably rightfully so, because you know those bands get so big and they have so much money and so many people kissing their ass. They're like, oh, you don't like it, you're out. So
Yep.
so I get it, but yeah, that album screams. Well, like you said, a band that's in their bubble, and no one else was gonna tell them, you know, what to do, and they were like, hey, this is similar to Hysteria. It's gonna be our next 10 million seller, and it's kind of a shit show, except for the song "Tear It Down." I love "Tear It Down" at the end.
That's a little bit heavier. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, which was a holdover from Hysteria. Anyway, I'm right with you, and I knew when I mentioned it earlier, and you kind of got a weird look. I'm like, oh, that's coming up here. I get it.
Got that coming.
All right, jeez, this video is turning into Metal Mike and the Guru shit on Def Leppard, because my number one is is uh is Love Bites from
Uh,
Hysteria. And
yeah.
man, if you follow me on X at Hair Metal Guru, um, you know, and I've given Hysteria props, loved that album, but that ballad, it sounds like a compute, like a computer trying to spit out what, you know, you know, it doesn't even sound like
Yeah.
a real song. It sounds like if AI these days was going to create a hair metal ballad, it might come up with something like Love Bites. Um, so geez, I mean, I think it went to number one. Whatever Def Leppard did back then was going to be a hit, but I I I probably was like, I can tolerate it back in the day, and now I like if I listen to Hair Nation, if it comes on, I'm like, I'm out. I'm out. Do not like it.
Dude, I'm always there to bash on Death Leopard. I'm with you. It's shit. No, I mean, take it or leave it. I mean, if it was on, I might just listen to it, but nothing that I would go to. No way.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Def Leppard, Joe, Phil, Rick, all you guys, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. Okay. You put out a lot of cool shit, but you put out some shit. Okay. You made some bad moves. Okay. All right. So that is 10 hair 20, 10 from each of us, hair metal hits that we hate. Would love it if you know, tell us which ones we missed. Tell us which ones that we're wrong about, and give us your thoughts. Hey, like and subscribe. Metal Mike from the 80s Glam Metalcast. Hey, where can everybody find your stuff to support your channel?
Yeah, thanks, man. Check it out on YouTube, podcast platforms. It does well on Spotify. So consume it any way you like, man. We got a lot of options for you, and keep an eye out. Ryan and I have been doing some music. We've got a new track coming out soon. Headbangers Ball. Real excited about it. So keep an eye out for that.
Hey, and yes, so Metal Mike and Ryan, who's been on a number of times, released the song Heavy Metal Rambo, which I've tried to promote. Love that song. I can't wait for what's it? Shit.
Headbangers Ball.
Headbangers Ball is the next one, so I haven't heard that one, but can't wait for that to come out. Love having you on, man. You've just been a great mentor and showing me how to do all this shit. So really appreciate it. Hey, if you made it, if you stayed with us this long, I appreciate it. Would love it if you like, subscribe, all that shit that people tell you to do. Until the next video comes out, my name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. Take care.